very first thing here is the motivation for taking this. And in my case, I am an engineer, and I don't have much experience managing projects, or at least I didn't. And I just wanted something to help me learn more about what is it like to be a project manager and what are the best practices used in industry to manage projects. So, if we are working on restoring a car, for instance, what is the appropriate way to do this where if I've got a team of 20 people and I've got stakeholders and I need to somehow figure out how to communicate all these requirements to my team and collect the requirements from my stakeholders and somehow manage the scope of this process, like how am I supposed to do that? And what tools and techniques should I be doing? And so I figured, I could look into taking a course by or about the PMP or the CAPM exam. And these are both issued by the Project Management Institute, PMI. And PMI is kind of this body of experts in industry who agree on what they think are common processes or best practices to follow for your projects. And in their own words, they say that every single project is unique, and it's your job as a project manager to be able to figure out how to tailor the processes that they've given you, or sometimes not even use those processes in the specific project you have. And so what you get out of taking the CAPM or the PMP exam is a better foundational knowledge of what a bunch of industry experts think are the appropriate processes, tools and techniques that you should be using as a project manager. So that is my motivation for taking this, was purely just let's see what people in industry think is the appropriate way to manage a project. In terms of the actual studying process and requirements that you need to take, for the CAPM exam, you need to take a PMI certified 23-hour course, I believe. And in my case, what I did is I signed up for a 23-hour course on Udemy. The teacher's first name was Joe, and basically it was $13. Udemy always has these 90% discounts going on, so the sticker price of the course was like $95. And I do not pay that price, please. You can get the course for $13, and there's quizzes and practice tests and a bunch of lectures that you will watch to certify that you've taken a 23-hour PMI certified course. My feedback on the course is that I don't feel like it adequately prepared me. And the reason for that is that on the actual exam, there were a lot of questions that mentioned terms that I had not seen in the lectures. And so I was a little bit disappointed with that. I will say that 23-hour course probably exposes you to about 80% of the content that you'll need to know for the actual exam. But getting to that point where you are ready to take the real exam is going to require a lot of studying and preparation. And so, in my opinion, I would do what I did, which is kind of just view the lectures passively, take notes, but don't worry too much about getting every single last detail out of the lectures. It's mostly just supposed to be introducing you to these topics and seeing how they all tie into a bigger picture. And the majority of your studying should be focused on memorizing the processes that PMI has laid out for project managers. So, what does it mean to develop a project charter? What is a project charter? What are the tools and techniques a project charter is going to require a project manager to use in order to develop one? And then what are the outputs of this process, and how, what's going to happen next typically? What are the life cycles of a project? These are all the kinds of things that for the CAPM exam or PMP exam specifically, you'll need to know. And if you were to just pluck a random project manager out of industry, what you're going to find a lot of times is they're not really using anything that the PMI has defined, because their own organization has defined their own project management strategies. Hopefully there is some overlap, but basically what this is doing is it's basically giving you an ability to get your feet wet and see how industry experts have some collectively agreed upon a way to manage a project. So don't think this is somehow a comprehensive certification that means you can be a PMP or a project manager anywhere. It means that you at least have an idea, a working knowledge of how things should look. The other reason that you take a CAPM exam instead of a PMP exam is, like in my case, I have not been a project manager before, and it is something that I'm interested in doing more of. But because I don't have full-time experience doing it, and specifically I don't have 3 years of full-time experience being a project manager, even if I could take and pass the PMP exam, it doesn't matter because the PMI will not recognize you as a PMP unless you have 3 years of full-time experience as a project manager. And so the reason why you take a 23-hour course is just to show the PMI that you've got enough exposure in this field through this online lecture series or whatever, that you can qualify for actually taking an exam and them certifying you as an associate project manager. So that's a key takeaway here. And yeah, the actual exam, as listed on their website, is 150 questions, 15 of which are not even graded because they are these experimental questions, and you will not know anything about the raw statistics, so you don't know what the pass-fail rate is. You also don't know what what the minimum required correct answers is. Basically, you just take the exam, and it's against the PMI Code of Ethics to share anything from that exam. So basically, I can just tell you that because this exam comes from the PMI, you can expect a lot of the content to come from the PMBOK, which is their book containing 10 chapters of all their processes and how it all ties in together. I'll be honest, I didn't even buy the PMBOK because I found some other resources online that I can provide links to where they have these chapter summaries as well as the practice exam, where they go into a lot of detail, and if you are very careful and you work through every single question on that practice exam and look at all the wrong answers and know why are they wrong, the goal is to basically figure out an intuition, and it's to develop that intuition to be like, why do we have a project charter? Why do we have a project management plan? Why do we care about stakeholder engagement? Why is a project management information system useful to us? Why is it important for us to control quality or manage quality? What's the difference between control quality and manage quality? Once you can begin to answer those questions just intuitively and not just say, oh, I've memorized what this process is, that's when you know that you're in some good shape to actually take this exam. Because as I was saying before, so much of your work as a project manager is going to be very likely not related to strictly the exam, because every company and every project is going to be unique. It's going to rely on you having that intuition to be like, if the project charter was just authorized by a board of directors or senior management and you're thrown into this project, you're going to need to know, like, how do you keep the ball rolling and what do you need to do to get your team together and develop a team. So those are the important things about the CAPM exam, or the PMP exam if you're taking that. And in terms of another reason why is it relevant to take this exam, motivation for some people is that you do get an industry recognized accreditation in project management. So if you're someone like me who has no prior experience in project management, if you want to demonstrate that you can understand the processes, tools, techniques, and what are industry standard best practices for actual project management, this is one way to do it. So and on a personal level, I think one of the interesting things about project management is it applies to basically everything we do, even if it's not in the professional world. In your personal life, if you're restoring a car, or building a bicycle or painting a house, being able to understand how a project manager would look at a particular project and break it down, create that work breakdown structure, figure out what are your work activities that you can actually estimate the duration and costs on, develop that kind of budget to be able to go to some stakeholder or yourself and be like, how much is it going to cost for me to remodel a bathroom, or how much is it going to cost for me to do some landscaping, is definitely a very important and useful tool in your tool belt to have as a professional and as a person, I think, regardless of whatever industry or thing you're doing. So project management in and of itself has some intrinsic value, I strongly believe, and that's why put my money where my mouth is and took this exam. And yeah, so I think that's just about it in terms of the advice and introduction I can give on the CAPM or the PMP if you're taking that. These tests are quite long. I took mine at night, and I took it online because of COVID. And so It's 3 hours for the CAPM. It's 150 questions, and it took me 2.5 hours to do it. In terms of overall study time, I probably studied about 1 month part-time for it, and then near the end or near the actual start date of my exams when I started cramming more. The important tools and helpful tools that I used were Anki, A-N-K-I. It was really helpful for me in terms of just figuring out, how to create these virtual flashcards where you could have a fill in the blank so that, you would have the definition and then the term. So, in the case of what does it mean to integrate subsidiary plans into a project management plan, you have an association between that and like the develop project management plan process and stuff like that. But the most important part in all of this is developing the intuition, and the total cost of this process hopefully should not be too much. I know there's a lot of people out there who will charge a lot of money to help you study and prepare for the CAPM or the PMP, and you're going to think you need to take a $1,000 course and spend a year of your life preparing for it. Do not do that. This is something where I feel like anyone can take this exam in 4 to 8 weeks. Once you say, I'm going to do this, the important part is to develop a schedule and just keep yourself on that schedule, and then also plan on building these study resources for yourself. And in terms of using project manager language, you're basically creating like a lessons learned register of what was helping you and what didn't help you along the way for actually taking this exam. So you can think of preparing for the exam as a project in and of itself, which is kind of cool. So yeah, with that, I think I'm going to wrap things up for this video. Thank you all for watching. Let me know if you have any questions, and if you intend on taking the CAPM or PMP, I wish you the best of luck, and take care.